Hello, and welcome to Quackalope. I am West, your fabulous flamingo, and today I'm giving you a legend guide on Apex Legends, the board game from Glass Cannon Unplugged. For those of you who don't know about Apex Legends, the board game, seriously, it is the largest, Apex Legends, the video game. It is one of the largest IPs out there. It's one of the most popular games, has the highest player count at one time. It also still has the highest average players throughout the week as well, by a long shot to any game that's out there in the video game sphere. It's an incredibly popular title, and I'm super excited to be able to talk to you about it today and talk about the different legends that are bringing forward to the board game. Now, we have a prototype here. Just for the record, this is a prototype. Things may change, and they may be different throughout the situation. I know that they've already talked about 13 total legends that they are bringing out. We only have 4 of them in front of us, but I want to do my best as a person who is relatively familiar with the video game to tell you kind of how they feel playing in the actual board game space. We have a total of 4 different ones that are included in our prototype, and we'll be talking today about Bloodhound, about Bangalore, about Gibraltar, and of course, Wraith. And I'm excited to dive into it. So the key for Apex Legends, just for those of you who don't know, the board game plays in traditional rounds. So you'll be going through this particular round tracker here. Each team will have an opportunity to play, and then there will be a series of information that happens here. In the actual board game itself, you will have cooldowns, you'll have delays, you'll also have duration timers. So these little tokens here will go along this board, and if you're playing out something that has a duration of 2, and say we were over here on this side, that piece would go there, and that way it would allow that particular item that's on the board to stay out there for 2 rounds. Or for 2 turns, so to speak. And then once this marker gets across here, you'll be removing that particular marker, taking it off and putting it down on your board, where you'll have a cooldown tracker, and you can move that down as well. This game does a very good job of giving you duration on the board, giving you markers for cooldowns, and giving you the feeling of playing those legends that you love. So starting off with Bloodhound. Now, the way that abilities and things work in this particular board game is that you're going to take these deck of cards here, and you're going to have a hand of 3, and in those cards you'll have all the different abilities that each particular legend is able to do. In Bloodhound's case here, there's enhanced shoot abilities. So when you're actually firing at your opponents, you can enhance the way that that particular shot is fired. In this particular case, you could choose a space within line of sight, and you may shoot a target adjacent to that space. So it's kind of like bending it like Beckham, that bullet goes around the corner there. The target cannot play other before shoot reactions, because in a shooting turn, you will have an opportunity as the aggressor to play before shoot cards, then your opponent will play before shoot cards, then you'll actually fire the weapon itself, and then there's after shoot abilities that will happen as well. There's instant cards that you can play as an instant action, and this particular one as an enhanced shoot for a legend from your team. An enemy team cannot play a before shoot reaction, so you have the ability even on the offensive side for your team to play cards in that before shoot action ability as well. Hit and run allows you to move and shoot. Normally you'll have 2 action points, and those action points allow you to do different things. You can move 2 spaces, you can move and use an item on your board, you can move and interact with the supply crates that are here on the ground. You can also use special enhanced abilities and whatnot, but those are basically the things that you're able to do while you're actually playing here, and this would give you the ability to move 2 spaces and still shoot, because shooting is one of those action points as well, and you're only able to shoot once per turn. So this is a really unique option here to allow you to move 2 spaces, shoot, and then still you'd be able to move 2 more spaces after that. That's a lot of movement in one location. Here we have another before shoot, so you can move 2 more spaces, and the shoot is canceled. So this would be a before shoot in a defensive action. So this would allow Bloodhound to go ahead and move 2 spaces potentially out of line of sight and cancel the shoot action, but this would still allow the person who is shooting against you to still save their shoot action and be able to shoot again, but now maybe it's not in the greatest location for what they were trying to do. There is a shot caller here, so you can enhance a shoot for a legend from your team. Aim cards with half shots. So the way that the actual aiming works in this game is that there are no dice. So you'll have the ability on this awesome tracker board here to use these aim cards to fire weapons. And in this particular card that Bloodhound was talking about, it would allow these shots here to count as an actual hit. Normally you would need 2 of those to actually count as a full hit on a particular run of cards. Your guns and different abilities will give you a different number of cards, i.e. shots, throughout that particular weapon. And there are different types of shots that will happen. You could do a headshot, which is this type here. You could also have a shot that if you are the lower person shooting up, it's an automatic miss. And if you're shooting down, even if the numbers don't hit, it's an automatic hit. And then there's also cover behind walls. If you're behind one of the half walls or behind one of these empty crates, then you would have you'd have some cover, but this would be an automatic miss if you're behind that particular type of cover. So there's some really interesting ways here to be able to mitigate the damage, showcasing the different styles of actions that you can do as you're shooting, which is great. And Bloodhound, of course, being very good at all of those things. The last thing that you have here for your legend are your special abilities, so your tactical ability as well as your ultimate ability. Now, for those of you who've played the video game, you know that Bloodhound's major ultimate ability is going to be able to see things out in the area and push that information to your team so that your team can shoot those people easier. The way that Glass Cannon Unplugged has managed to do that is using the ravens. So you attach a raven to an opponent, and then that gives a plus to the aiming ability. So you make hitting them easier as long as the raven stays attached to them. It's kind of like a beacon shining down saying where that particular person is, and it makes it much easier to hit them, which is pretty awesome. The Eye of the All-Father allows you to move faster, and it gives you, again, a +2 to shoot. Or it gives you not +10 to shoot. It allows you to move more, but it also gives you the ability so that you cannot be penalized. You don't automatically miss if you're shooting someone behind cover, and you also you're not penalized if you're lower shooting up, which is pretty amazing for Bloodhound there. So that is Bloodhound. Now Bloodhound's amazing miniature looks like this. Now these are painted minis that came from an amazing artist in Poland. I wish that we got to keep them, but sigh, we don't. We have to send this prototype back. But aren't these absolutely incredible minis? I'm just amazed by what the artist was able to do with them, which also shows you, if you're one of those people who can paint amazingly, these minis really will shine. I think overall they're incredibly well detailed. These are 40mm minis, so they're excellent paintable minis. And I think you're going to have a lot of fun with them. The bases are beautiful as well. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with them yourself. Now, moving on to Bangalore. Now, Bangalore, same basic concept as far as you have different cards, but the cards will allow you to do different things. So she has before shot with teams where an enemy applied smoke hit. If the enemy applied smoke hit, because she has these smoke abilities that we'll talk about in a moment. So if the smoke hit went through, if you're shooting through the smoke, there would be a penalty there. And she has precision. She adds 2 for each hit. You can add an additional points of damage. She can, after the shot, move 3 spaces or move and use a common item, which is really important because you'll be able to use syringes and healing med packs that will allow you to increase your health, as well as charge batteries and whatnot for increasing your shield levels, which is fantastic. So she'd be able to move one out of the way and use one of those potential life-saving abilities. Also aim cards with the half thing on the bottom, those would count as hits. She also has, you may play smoke launcher ability if it's available, so she can shoot out her smoke options. And she would ignore all half hits as well as the headshots, which would be adding additional damage. So that's pretty powerful. Another one of those move and use ones. And then she has an adrenaline rush here, which allows her to move 3 different spaces. And she has an enhanced shot, so it would double the damage dealt by the headshot abilities. Now, of course, we kind of talked about her special abilities. She has her smoke launcher here, which allows her to throw out these little smoke screens. And she also has ordnance, for the Rolling Thunder, where it'll be placed down, and then as you can see in this item here, once she places it down, it has a delay of 2, so she will place this token down, and if it was this round here, 1, 2, it would go off at this location. So once the round marker moved around and got to this spot, it would go off at the beginning of that round. And anyone in the interior of this particular area, so it's a 5x5 grid, they would take, or 5x4 grid, excuse me, it would take that 20 points of damage, which is a pretty gigantic loss. And as the arena shrinks and shrinks during the rounds, these ordinances become incredibly powerful throughout the actual game itself. And that is Bangalore. Now, moving right along, we get to Gibraltar, also known as Gibby, everybody's favorite savior. Gibby, for those of you who don't know, loves to be the one who rushes in and puts up shields everywhere and tries to save people. He is a fantastic tank and not really a doctor, but he can throw shields up and make everybody feel safe. So for Gibraltar, just like all the others, we'll talk about his special abilities first because some of his deal with those as well. He has his Dome of Protection, which is this little guy right here, and so with that dome he has the ability to put 4 people inside of it. People can't shoot into it, the ordinances don't affect it, no grenades, no anything like that. You don't have to worry about it. As long as you're inside of it, you're safe, though other legends can move in and punch you or shoot you inside of the dome, but you can't actually end up being hurt. You can't shoot out of it, they can't shoot in it, so it allows you an opportunity to take a round or two and be safe, which is fantastic. He also has a defensive bombardment, which would allow a giant bomb to come down, again on a delay of 2. And then this is a 5x5 grid, so it is a huge location and does 24 points of damage. And again, during that time where things are pulling in, it's very hard for you to kind of avoid that situation. And with his cards, he has a shield here, so this is a team before you shoot, which will allow you to, after the first shot, you can play your Dome of Protection ability if it's available. And if you're adjacent to the target, they will prevent 10 points of damage, which is pretty awesome. In and out, during this activation, you ignore Dome of Protection effect, so you're actually able to shoot through it at that point, which is amazing, because let me tell you, there are opportunities where you're going to be really close to death, and if you could throw up a shield to save yourself and still be able to get that last shot off you really want to, that is really awesome. This one also allows you to swap places if you're adjacent to, and you become the target of that shot. So that's a really great before ability if you happen to be more healthy, or if you've already died once, because the goal of the game is to kill each other player one time. So if you're on Team A and you're fighting against Bangalore and Bloodhound, you want to kill Bloodhound and Bangalore at least one time each. Once you do that, you win. So if you can swap places, if Gibby's already died once, he can swap places with his with Wraith in this particular case, and then take the damage, and Wraith still lives. Even if he dies, it's okay, because that doesn't end the round, or it doesn't end the game. Keep Out allows you to push adjacent enemies, so you can actually still push them. There's still melee attacks and things that you can do here, but if they have a collision against a wall or something along those lines, then they will take some damage there, which is pretty awesome. There are 2 before you shoot cards that will allow you to ignore headshot cards and prevent 10 points of damage. He also has a charge ability where you can move 3 spaces and push an adjacent enemy, also giving them 12 points of damage on a collision, which is pretty impressive. And he has a heal up ability where each legend on your team inside of the Dome of Protection zone may use an item, and you can use a consumable to restore 10 points of health or shield based on the item that's used, which is really, again, very awesome. Gibraltar is a savior in that regard. Unfortunately, doesn't always save me, though. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Wraith. And if you know Wraith, you know that she can kidnap people, she can put up dimensional portals, and move ridiculously fast. She's one of the favorite players that I use. Again, I don't win, because that's not how I play. I play to have fun. And I have been told by the developers, you heard it here first, that they will have the ability to do a kidnap function for Wraith. The way that kidnap technically works now in the video game is that you would put a portal up high on kind of like the side of a building, and then they would fall through the portal, and then the people on the other side of the portal would be able to shoot them when they fell through, and they wouldn't be able to get away from the actual portal. You'd put it up here like on the top of a building here, and as the person runs through, they fall off and they can't get back up again because it's too high, so then they get killed. So it's fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to that potential aspect when they finish doing the revisions. But I think it's going to be a fantastic option. So as we've talked about here, we have Into the Void, which allows her to move really, really, really fast. So she can, every movement point she gets an extra movement point. It also has a before you shoot ability, where after the first shot, you can move 2 spaces. And if you're out of line of sight, that's great, but all remaining shots automatically miss. Otherwise, the enemy would gain 2 recoil. So every shot would have to move 2 down this track, and then 2 down this track, so it makes it a lot harder for them to actually hit you. And then there's Dimensional Rift, which would be these dimensional portals here. So you can place one down, and then it allows you to move really far away to be able to place the next one down. In this particular games, you can actually set a portal up on the top of one building, run away, and then on your next turn you can set the other portal up and allow you to move back and forth between the 2 tops of buildings, which would be incredible. Now, of course, that does still mean that you can have your opponents move through those portals as well. So keep that in mind as you're doing things, but it's still pretty entertaining. She has things like Vision, which allow you to look at the top 3 cards of the aim deck, which is incredible and allows you to see what's coming, and you can put them down at the bottom, so that way you're not ending up shooting and not having any good cards come out. Prophecy, when a reaction is played, ignore the effect of this reaction. If a feat card was played, return it to the owner's hand, and then no other reactions can be played during this shoot action. So once she plays this card, it basically negates all other before shoot and after shoot abilities, and that's a pretty strong card as well. Behind your back, choose a legend within 3 spaces and in line of sight, and then place your legend, i.e. Wraith, adjacent to that legend. Now, if the legend is actually an enemy, you're going to do 4 points of damage to them. Vengeance Seeker is each hit deals 2 additional damage, and if you have 30 points or less, all aim cards with the half shield at the bottom will end up being hits as well, which is fantastic. Voidwalker. When a legend enters a space with a dimensional rift, you can choose one space, choose a space within one space to the dimensional rift, and the legend who entered that dimensional rift is placed onto that space. So that way you can actually push them a little bit farther back or a little bit farther forward, because if you're trying to get closer to something by using the rift, this would really help in that particular situation. She has an after shoot ability here that she's got, which can allow a legend from your team to move 2 additional spaces, so hopefully they won't end up in a situation where they're kind of out in the wild, and then because they needed to do the shoot action to get the extra points, she can kind of save them by moving them out of the way. And then, of course, the blink action, which is place your legend on a space 1 to 3 spaces away and then move 1 space, so she can move a total of 4 spaces by using that particular card. Now, these cards do make you feel like you're playing completely asymmetric characters. As you've seen, none of them are exactly the same. That is really, really cool, so it does make each individual legend feel completely different. While you still technically have the same actions as far as moving, shooting, moving and using something, or moving and interacting with something, or what have you, those basic actions may be the same, but these cards make you feel totally different, which I really, really like. And hopefully you'll see in this as well that each one, because they feel unique and because they feel different, they also stay very true to the game, the video game itself, as much as you possibly can. I'm really interested to see how some of the other legends say that can fly, how they've got some of those abilities kicked in here, because they did a great job with overcoming some of the things for Bloodhound, especially with that particular ability, being able to push the information to the other players. Using the Ravens, I think, was brilliant. I'm excited to see what they come up with for some of the other legends. Unfortunately, they haven't shared that information with us yet, but I'm excited to see it, and I'm sure that Glass Cannon will continue to do a fabulous job, because, as usual, they've done an amazing job with this particular port as well. And it's not really even a port, because they've got some incredible people working on this. Obviously, the development team for Frostpunk is here, and they've got David Tucci's doing a single-player version of this, and of course, from Fantasia Games, one of the co-owners there was also one of the developers on this game. So super, super excited to see what they come up with and what they continue to put out there at Glass Cannon, doing some amazing work. Hopefully this was helpful for you and gave you some ideas about exactly how each character plays. If you want to see more about how the game itself is played and some information for you out there, we do have a first look. We've also got after the first play. We do have a gameplay going up if it hasn't already, so you can kind of see all the different characters in action. Hopefully, if you get a chance to play, maybe you could win, because I never win, but I enjoy playing, and that's part of the fun. Well, thank you so much for being here. As always, whatever the case, whatever you do, don't forget to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to check that link in the description below for the wonderful Kickstarter. Please go take a look and back responsibly, but we'll see you next time.